Good evening or afternoon, wherever it is where you are. We're talking about marriage today. A fortress for well-being. That kind of encapsulates it, but says so much, and we have lots of things to dig into. I'm going to tell you right now, any of you with questions, I am not going to tell you if your current partner is your eternal partner. And you can guess why. Maybe you can't, maybe you don't. But those kinds of things change how you navigate your life, and so we're not going to do that. Sorry, even fascinating as it is. Even when I've worked with people that like their partners on the other side, even they won't like. That's a whole nother conversation. But anyways, unless it comes up in one of your questions. So marriage is, in a nutshell, as I said, a fortress for well-being. It's a vehicle by which you share your life with someone, potentially your entire earthly life, or from marriage onwards. And you kind of act as anchors, reflecting mirrors, support, all kinds of tools. Excuse me, my support tool just beeped. What? Trust. Yes. Yes, building trust. That was a huge thing. I used to have this rock by my bed that said trust, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. And then I get married to that one. Boy, had to really, really work on trust to be in a relationship. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust them. Anyway, so marriage, although in the past has been more, about making sure that there's a partnership in terms of survival, right? That somebody is providing the food and the care and all the pieces, and then it turned into, when we went into a money-based society, then somebody's going to be making the money, and there's a lot of factors just to survive, and you were blessed if love was a factor. Nowadays, for the most part, at least in the society that most of you and I reside in, women can, do it themselves, and men can do it themselves. So some of those factors don't play in like they used to. So now we get to really explore what would we want out of a marriage, not just to survive, but what do we want to thrive? What do I want in a partner? Like, we have the opportunity now to spend time identifying what kind of characteristics are important to me in my partner. What kind of characteristics do I bring to the table? There are the obvious ones like kindness and honesty and the capacity to work, whether, even if you have it divvied up that one person works around the house and one person works out, whatever, and whichever partner you are, if that's the kind of relationship you want. But more in-depth things like, are they a spiritual being? What are their thoughts on the environment? What are their thoughts on children? Are they going to participate in childhood? Do they want children? Do you both want children? Does one want children, the other one doesn't? I mean, there's so many things that we can really explore before we decide that that's the person that I want to spend a significant amount of time with. So marriage is evolving, and we have to learn how to do it. So this is it's a challenge. And I love meeting couples that they seem to just kind of flow together, but usually they've been together a long time. And if you sit and talk with them, they'll tell you that it wasn't always like that they had some rough times that they had to go through to get to this place of calmness and complete trust and validation of each other. And then, of course, there's the ones that fake it. You don't want that. At least I don't. So anyway, all right. So broad stroke, marriage. What do y'all think? What are your questions? I know that somebody has some.
We're always talking about how everything in this world reflects some kind of truth about the spiritual world. So, what spiritual truth does marriage reflect? What is it a sign of?
Of marriage, of partnership, you can have a marriage, a partnership in eternal life as well. Someone with whom you share the journey, that you share an abode with, that you you do your progression with. Having somebody that you're in partnership with, when you're doing your growth, you're doing it on your own. When you have a partner that is observing and kind of taking the brunt of it, because we're kind of, I don't even want to say beastly, because beasts are probably nicer than us in some ways, but we're kind of rough to handle when we're going through these processes, right? We're struggling and just trying to figure out how to navigate these changes. And some obviously are more dramatic than others. And having that constant person there that no matter what is going to be there really acts as not only a buffer, but a reflection and a reminder. And like with this one and myself, like we came into it with all these jabby points, and we're always banging each other, hurting each other with those points. But after a while, those points have all kind of got smoothed out, and so now it's not quite such a rough, banging, because those points have been dulled down from all the thrashing around that we did. And so, again, for an eternal partner, same thing. You've gotten to know each other. You can support each other. Those points not only get softened, not so sharp, but they start to kind of fuse. Although you never become fused with another person, you are always your individual self. Even if you get to the point of you have these other thoughts or whatever, you are still yourself. You're always going to be yourself. You're never going to be one puddle and the same. So yes, whatever here's a representation of there, right? We get inklings of things that are in spirit from what we experience here as physical, and like colors, like we have this, we have the 7 colors that we are familiar with. That's a fraction of what colors are. We see beauty, we experience love and sorrow and joy and frustration. That's a fraction of how you feel it, of especially like love. It's so powerful. So we get a taste of it. So the same with what it feels like to be in partnership. As good as it feels, as nurturing as it can be, it's a fraction of what it's like there.
I want to know more about this. Like, what is relationship meant to be? What is it in the spiritual world?
Like different than what I said? What is it that I'm missing?
Well, okay, a system could have been created where we come here as autonomous beings and we interact, but we don't join in relationship, right? or have children, or what is even deeper? Like, is it unity? Is it just about growth? What is it representing in the spiritual world? What is this whole relationship thing?
So men and women have are equal in the eyes of Creator, and have both have masculine, what we call masculine and feminine characteristics, but yet women and men are different. And so that image of the yin yang, that it's the complete circle is made up of the two pieces with a little piece of each other in the, that dot that is in each half. It's like the embodiment of the whole, of the pieces that come, that what I bring and what my partner brings create something beyond what we would do individually.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Okay. All right. Yay, I got one.
So, what do we strive for in a truly spiritual partnership? What does that look like?
In a truly spiritual partnership on earth? Well, here again. What does spiritual mean to you? To you as the potential partner? And what does it mean to your partner? I mean, if you don't have an idea of what that means, and they don't, or their idea is different than yours, like, so let's say that the definition of a spiritually minded person is someone who recognizes that they are an eternal being, and that everything that they think, do, say has an effect on not only on themselves and their environment, but on their eternal journey. It's not separate. Earth life isn't separate from spiritual life. And so you're walking a certain way. So let's say that if that's your definition and you are journeying with that in mind, and your partner does not, it's going to be a challenge to have a spiritual relationship. I mean, you can say, oh, well, I believe in God and he believes in God, so we're good. But belief in something and without action is really kind of pointless. And we're all aware that there are people that's how they are. So you have to first decide, where are you on that spectrum, and what you expect and what are you headed for. And then is your partner going to be in that same place? Not exactly in the same place, but at least of that same understanding, and with the recognition that you're both always going to be growing, right? That there's always going to be shifts and changes and advancements and stumbling blocks. But that's your goal, right? That's your concept of where you want to go. And then, of course, you have to have the ability and the willingness, both of you have to have conversations around that. A lot of times we'll get one party is not willing to have that conversation. Is there, I this is what I think, or whatever, we don't need to talk about it. Or that's your problem, you deal with it. I'm doing my thing, you do your thing. You're not going to get very far. So identifying, exploring who you are, what you want, what does having a spiritual relationship mean to you, and what does it mean to them, and do they align?
What about, what does it mean to Creator? I guess that's where, like, I would define old old ways of marriage that were for survival, convenience, providing, as not necessarily like we're in an age now. What should marriage and relationship look like today? What should we be striving for? What does that look like if we're trying to mirror what it would be in the divine realm? Does that make sense?
Well, unity, chastity, and by chastity, I mean being chaste outside of your marriage, but whatever you do, whatever you want in your marriage. But, going to strip clubs or gawking at whatever you like to gawk at, having true chastity, unity, trust, to be a force for good together, that your everything that you do, again, affects everything else, the whole. And you as a good person have good effects. Your partner as a good person has good effects. Together, you transcend what the two separates would be, right? You become a unified energy that kind of radiates broader than you could on your own. So, and by being in that place, so Creator's eternal, we're eternal. The whole point of existence, this planet, this realm, this galaxy, that star, that galaxy, that universe, whatever, anywhere, up, down, left, right, anywhere, is about growing towards the light, which means God and love and spirituality and everything. So the brighter you shine, the brighter the universe shines. And so you get your light on, get your light lit.
That's a beautiful description. That actually paints a really good picture, a visual picture of that radiating something brighter and more powerful and more beautiful together to strive for. I really love that. I love it.
Good. I'm glad. Okay. More?
Oh, there's just, there's so many different kinds of marriages, different kinds of relationships. How do you navigate, when is the transformation about digging in with your partner, and when is sometimes the transformation about knowing when to go your separate ways, like in cases of abuse, right? How do you navigate all of that from a divine perspective?
So if you're unable to find peace within yourself in that relationship, and that person is absolutely unwilling to address the issue, talk about the issue, address the issue, make changes, and you're unable to be at peace, then you're radiating unrest, you're radiating anxiety, you're not in a good place yourself, and you're not helping anybody else. And heaven forbid you got children in the house, because that experience is I don't even know how to say. In my house, my parents, I'm the eldest, and so I remember this. My sisters don't remember this. But when people are like, "Oh yeah, well, they're like, oh yeah, my parents got divorced," like, "Oh, I'm from a divorced childhood or whatever. I'm like, thank goodness. Like, I am grateful that my parents got divorced because it was really uncomfortable when my parents were in the same place at the same time, you know? Um, I'm grateful that they got divorced. It just never was gonna work. They were just not in the same place. Oddly enough, now, 50 something years later, they are actually kind of circling around to where they're much more aligned than they were before. But in the interim, it was bad, and it wasn't gonna get any better. So, you have to think about yourself, you have to think about your children, like, even your animals. You have pets in the house, they're not thriving in that kind of environment. Um, so if you're not going to be able to make it work, then you have to leave. Now, sometimes you can leave and go live separately, do your things, and maybe you can figure out a way to come back together. So we don't have to be like, oh my God, I have to move, it's all over. It might be over, but sometimes that separation allows each of the partners to kind of reflect on, okay, do I really prefer being on my own? Would I rather be with that person? And if so, what do I need to do to make that happen? So I just want to say that as an option because sometimes we feel it as a very black or white. Well, either I stay or I go. Either I stay and it continues or I go and it's over. Maybe, but maybe not. I thought you had a bunch of questions.
Wendy, do you have anything? Because mine move into a different realm after this.
So move into a different realm. You had so many. I didn't.
I don't know if I can articulate them well. It gets more into, for me personally, I've been in a relationship for 4 decades now, right? And so I don't even know if I know how to articulate this question, but I can feel an essence of myself that is the same, and I can connect with that child self, the 20s self, the 30s, 40s, 50s self. But I do feel like a different person now. And my husband feels like a different person now. And I think about, so who are we really? Is the essence that you felt of yourself in your youth closer to your soul, or are we closer to our soul now? With aging for us, we've become more calm, more chill, more reasonable, but less energetic. We had a lot of idealism and hope and joy and energy, and it really, in thinking, am I transforming, the earthly person, or is my soul transforming as I go through this?
So your soul chose to come here for life lessons, right? And optimally, you are traversing those lessons, not skirting them. Your soul is eternal. It's always existed, it always will exist, whereas your body will not. Your soul is much more complex. Even our bodies, even our, what we consider this, we are so complex. So here's this, maybe this will, because your answer is kind of hard. The answer is kind of hard to, I went to a funeral. Somebody had passed, and we went to the house first. The house was where the body was, and everybody was there in the house when we arrived. We had to drive a lot of hours to get there. And I walked in the house, and they went, the people that we all rode together, went looking for the wife, but I wanted to see how the husband who had passed, how he was doing. So I kind of headed over towards the casket. I mean, I had to find him. So I go over there, and there he is. When he passed, he was like late 60s. But I see him, and he's 30. Oh, 30. Oop. No, oh, no, I'm 20. Oh, I'm 50. He was like zipping around all these different ages of how he looked, and they were all him, right? It's all him. He's not traveling through time. They're different versions of him, and they all exist at the same time with who he is. All of those make up the whole. I don't think that the 20s you is gone. That 20s you still exists. Is still part of the whole, as is the 50s you. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does make sense. I want to understand more about it, though, because if our soul chooses to come here to learn, inherent in that is that there's something we don't know, our soul doesn't know, or hasn't experienced that it will learn here. Can you talk about that? Like,
Okay. Let's take patience. Patience is something that I'm one of those. I need patience, and I need it now. So I've learned patience. Having children, you kind of have to learn some patience. Being married, you got to learn some patience. Driving in traffic, you got to learn some patience. So it's an ongoing thing, right? I'm continually working towards perfecting my patience. So when you come here, say you come here to learn patience, it doesn't mean you never had patience in your life before. It means it's something that you want to develop into a deeper understanding of. And if you take there's the Virtues Project, which if you don't know about that, look it up. There's the Virtues Project. It has, I don't know how many cards. It's a deck of cards that you can get. There's more to it, but any of those virtues that you explore, you're never going to master it and be like, oh, I'm the most trustworthy being on earth. I'm the most trustworthy being. My soul is the most trustworthy soul. You're always going to be deepening what that means on another level, on another level, on another level, on another level. Does that answer it?
yeah, I think it kind of does. I think it
Kind of. Okay, so let's explore that. So what's missing?
No, I think that really does answer the question, both in terms of that as you progress and learn all these parts of yourself, it is one whole, right? Because in the spiritual realm, there's no time. But also there's always a deeper level of understanding, compassion, love, kindness, patience, right? And so I still, my earthly mind wants to put it in wants to put it in a timeline, of I didn't have it and I developed it, right? Because that's my experience here on earth.
Okay. So where we hold the place in Illinois where we hold the retreats, and have been holding them there for however many years. 2-3 years ago, we were there, and my husband lost one of his earrings. We go home, not going to go all the way back down there for the earring. And we've gone there, in between, and never even thought about the earring. We went this last time. And the earring was there on the carpet in our room. Now, you can't tell me that it was laying there the whole time because it's been years and we're not the only people that use that place. And they're very clean there. They clean that place, everything. There's no way that earring was, and it was like kind of where you walk to go like outside the bathroom door. There's no time. That's where he dropped it. And that's where we found it. I wish the camera would have gone to you guys when you showed your shock, because that would have been great on the film.
I think that is hands down one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess I think too, for me, it feels like the same topic, but this year I've been thinking a lot about how, especially with the way we communicate in 2025, you can go around in your head with an idea of your friends, your loved ones, of what they're thinking or what they're thinking. You know, you might get a text and you make assumptions, which led me to think, am I really in relationship with people, or am I just in my own head assuming things about everyone? Which means I'm living this life in my own head with my own perceptions, my own truth, and not genuinely in relationship with people, even though I think I am. Can you talk about that? How much are we really in genuine relationship with others, or are we just making assumptions? If that makes any sense to anyone else.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's one of those black and white questions. It's a both and. The degree in which you are in relationship has to do with the degree of consultation. This concept of consultation can be done and should be done, especially as you're getting to know someone, for every little thing. Because yeah, we have in our head what we think is the truth. Like if I say, like say my husband and I are going to go out to dinner. And he says, where do you want to go? And I say, you know what? I feel like Mexican. And he says, okay, let's go to Mexican. Now, he agreed with me, but why? Right? I mean, okay, we consulted and we both agreed, let's go to Mexican. But did he agree because I wanted to go? Did he agree because he wants to go? Did he agree because it's the closest place or the cheapest place or the funnest place or whatever, you know? So I don't really know. I just know that he said he'll go, but I don't know why, unless I ask. You're nodding, but does that mean you're okay with it or you want more?
Yeah, I think it requires a lot of conversation to truly know people and to truly be in consultation and to understand each other and to be in a real relationship. I think it does with any relationship, not just the romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of consultation. In the Baha'i faith, they talk a lot about that. I'm reading a science book right now called Changeability, and it's changeability, collaborative problem solving, and it's the science behind it. And it's really beautiful. And they're using it now. They have 30 years of research to show how punishment and reward does not really work, but it's more this collaborative problem solving of really listening to what other people have to say and coming at a mutually agreed upon course of action.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's really inspiring to see that where science is catching up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do.
No,
so,
it's not. But it's so, and anyone can do it. When I was pregnant with my younger son, for some crazy reason, I don't know why, I took a part-time job at a at the hospital where they did like daycare. I don't know if it was like the children of the people that worked there or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I was pregnant. I don't know. Maybe because I don't know. Anyways, I was working there. And two kids, two little ones, 3 years old or something, had it out. They're, big problem. And the supervisor, whatever, is like, getting all upset about it. And I went over and I got the children and I said, okay, look, because right away they're like, he blah 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 blah, what he blah 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 blah, they're all just, So I said, look, I want you two to go over to that corner over there, sit down, and the two of you talk about it. You talk about what happened, how it happened, how you felt, how the other one felt, where did maybe you make a mistake, maybe where did the other one make a mistake, and just go over there and just stay over there. And then the other workers are like, what kind of a punishment is that? Did you punish them? I'm like, well, I'm not punishing them. I'm just going to let them work it out and figure out what's going on. So it took a little bit of time. I couldn't tell you how long, 10 minutes, half an hour. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But they came back, and even at their tender age of, 3, maybe 4, they came back and they're like, this is what happened, and this is, they both spoke, and they both shared, and then they went back to playing. I think I agree with you. That's a very Puritan kind of approach, you did something wrong, poof, you're going to hell, No, Creator isn't like that. Creator is the all-forgiving. Just work through it. Have the conversation. Have the, yeah. And how often does punishment actually make the person change?
Well, in this book, there's not a lot of research support for it. It doesn't tend to work. I think with young children, it may work in the short term, but not in the long term. I think it does more harm than good. And they now have a whole body of research to support this. And they're trying these methods in really extreme situations, like in prisons, in juvenile detention centers, in mental health facilities. And they're finding it works even with the people. It's like skills, not will, that there's a skill missing. Most people and children want to succeed and will if they can. And if they're not, it has to be a conversation about, okay, so what's going on, and where they can generate possible solutions. But he talks about how this puritanical kind of punishment and reward thing is woven into our religions, our government, our workplaces, our schools. It's really everywhere. And it does more harm than good. But transforming into a new way of being, in this consultative way of being, it's not easy, it's not easy, but I think it's definitely worth it. But it requires letting go of you got to let go of your own ideas. You've got to let go of maybe your own hopes for how something will go. Anyone who's been in a relationship knows, that can be a tall order at times.
And it's letting go of playing God. We are like so up in God's business, making judgment about this and that and everything, deciding. And it's really not our job. Yes, there are rules, societal rules that we need to follow. Yes. But the way that we do, I have a client who's from another country, and I was not aware of this, but in that country, they still have tribes. And so she gave an example of a young man. I don't know if he even had his license, but he had just learned to drive. I don't know. Anyways, he got into some kind of van and was driving erratically and hit and killed somebody. And it happened to be this person aunt. And so the person, the young man was taken to jail, not charged, just taken to jail, and that's where he was. So what happens is the tribe of the woman that was killed and the tribe of the person that did it, they get together and they decide how to handle it. So in this case, the tribe of the young man, like everybody donated whatever they could, and they gathered $2 million. And they went to the other tribe and they said, okay, we know this is bad. This is, a bad situation. The best we can do, we've got $2 million and we would like to give that to you in compensation for the loss of the woman. And it was this person's father, who was the brother of the woman that was killed. And he said, I don't want the money. It's not going to bring her back. And I don't think that there's any, I don't want the money. But I do, no, I'm missing a whole piece here. He's like, but I don't want the young man. I don't want the money, but I don't want the young man to lose the rest of his life for a mistake that he made. And so they agreed on whatever terms, and they went to the police station and they said, okay, we don't want him to be in jail. We've agreed, let him go. And then he goes into, so his tribe knows so they, as a community, they decide what is just. They could have decided that, well, we want him to go before a judge and everything, but they have the option to decide and clear it, work it out themselves. And that gives you all kinds of variations of how it can go. I mean, you sit and consult and like, what's going to work? How are we going to handle this? And then again, like, it's not like that his family had to come up with the money. The whole community, the whole tribe, donates what they can. They do it as a community. One of our community members made a mistake and needs help, and we're all going to step in and help. That's far different from how we do it here. If you did it, you have to come up with you have to do the time or pay the fee or whatever. So yeah, that was mind-boggling to me. And I'm like, and then you came here, you live here. I'm like, I can't, how does that even feel? So yeah, it's like when for a while there, I haven't heard this mentioned in a long time, but I don't like pay attention to the news. But like a rapist, they would castrate them, right? Either physically or chemically. And I'm thinking, how is that a good idea? Like, they're thinking, okay, well, let's castrate them, and that, instead of sending them to jail. Like, but now you've got a really, really angry person because he's been castrated. What's he going to do now? I mean, if he was raping when he was, physically whole, and now you took that away, and now he's angry on top of it. You didn't even address whatever was really going on with this person. You just try to put a Band-Aid on it, which I think is going to blow up in your face, because he's going to have anger, extreme anger on top of it. Yeah, we could definitely use some outside of the box thinking for a lot of our punishments, how we handle punishment. Which I'm not sure how we got there from marriage, but
well, the community tribal method that you described sounds a lot like restorative justice that they're trying in some schools now, as opposed to kind of that very school to prison pipeline, reward, punishment, zero tolerance, that kind of thing. Because it ignores the heart of the matter, which is, why is it happening?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's connected because these issues are about relationship. They're about how to be in relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
That does bring up for me, is there anything special? Because we learn from all of these relationships that we're in this life. Is there anything special about the marriage relationship?
Yeah. The marriage relationship is that is the one person. Like, okay, so you grow up in your household with or without parents, or with or without both parents. Maybe it's your grandparents, maybe you're in a foster care, whatever, but you still grow up in a home. And at some point you're going to leave. You have children and they're living with you in the home, but at some point they're going to leave. A partner you're with day in and day out, always. And they really see who you are optimally, especially over time. The more time you spend, the more you get to really know someone. And I mean, children and your parents or whatever. Well, the difference is when you're a child, then you know your parents, but you're kind of you're the lesser. You're not the authority. Your parents are. And when you're the parent, you're the authority, and like you know your children, but still your job in a parent is not to be buddy. Your job is to guide them towards being independent adults themselves. In the marriage relationship, you're not the authority and they're not the authority. You're both equal partners, and neither one of you is going to grow up and grow out. You're going to stay together. So you not only know the person, but you're not leaving, and you have the opportunity to continue and continue and continue. I mean, if you marry young and have kids together and stay married, I mean, you're in that relationship way longer than anybody else. So you know that person's downfalls, you know their weaknesses, you know their strengths. So that's the very person with whom we should show the most compassion and understanding and patience, because we know where they're hurting. We know what affects them more than anybody else. And so having not only that knowledge and that growth together, but you're holding in your hand, you're holding the power to like destroy that person, to really make them miserable, to embarrass them in front of others, or even just in front of you. So there's so much involved in that relationship that doesn't come into play in other relationships. You know, and that's why a lot of marriages, you know, when the children grow up, then the marriage is over, because they're like, there's so much more to it than just sharing the house and sharing the kids. It is very special and can be so powerful. Optimally, you choose the right one to start with, and that's something that we are still learning to do, right? Because we're not in that survival kind of mode so much. You know, now we have the opportunity. You don't have to be in a rush to get, you're not going to be an old maid. I mean, you can get married at 50 if you want to. Nobody's going to be like you're an old maid. But so we have the opportunity, we have the time to really explore, and not just like which guy has the most money to make me, to make sure that I'm taken care of. That's only one way of what you're being taken care of. And what are you bringing to the table, right? You gotta bring something to the table too. So yeah, I mean, it has the power it has the capacity, the possibilities of being the most important decision you ever make in your life. But you just gotta, treat it that way and explore that. So
That's
in a nutshell,
really
yes, it is very special.
Yeah, I mean, that's really beautiful when you say that is the person you should have the most compassion with, because in all honesty, especially when you've been together a long time, you can be the people you take the most for granted and show the least compassion with, because you're just on automatic pilot and you know each other so well and you're just like, oh, God dang it,
Yes.
That is really true about that's the person you should be the most compassionate with. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Are we set?
You said something that made me think of something else, and this is a hard question. Kind of, I don't want to ask it, but I have to ask it, which is, right, I don't know how many people in the world ascribe to one faith or another. At one time, it was over 90%. It's probably over 80% now. But why, in all the major religions of the world, do they sort of recommend marriage and even dissuade you from getting divorced? But yet, why is that the advice when there are instances where going your separate ways is the best, healthiest thing to do? But we're not given that advice in the major writings, of the world, of any faith. It doesn't say, oh, okay, but hey, if this happens or that happens, it's really healthier to go your separate ways. I think that really has caused a lot of heartache for a lot of people.
I think you can as an example, it's the same as the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. I don't know them by heart, but you not have lust for your neighbor's wife. I think jealousy is one you're not supposed to have. I don't remember. But the point is, that's the law. That's the perfect thing, right? That's the optimal situation. These things don't do. And the optimal situation is the same for marriage. Optimally, you marry for life, you stay together, you don't get divorced. But we're not perfect people. We're not black and white people. And so we have to have some flexibility. And remember, in previous societies, if the woman gets divorced, what's going to happen to her? And I know sometimes they say, oh, well, the woman then goes back to her family, or the woman this, but it was different. Now we have a lot more options. If you get divorced, of like how you're going to survive. But if you aren't going to survive, then you get divorced. It's different. And again, I can't ever imagine that the creator would be like, I want you to stay with that guy who beats the crap out of you every day. But again, getting back to your choice, now that we have more choice, and going back to the 10 Commandments, like is if the partner is not abiding by these, you shouldn't be beating your wife, or you shouldn't be cheating on your husband, or you shouldn't be. These are the rules of how you apply them. And how do we as a society deal with that, right? If society doesn't have a catch, what do you call it, a catch, safety net, for women who leave a marriage, or for men who are being cheated on, or whatever these things, then we kind of have to do the next best thing, or whatever, right? Society itself is on a journey, is on a growth, is advancing. And I think that concept needs to come into play, be part of the conversation of like, where are we as a society? How can we grow so that these issues can be resolved in a way that works for everybody to the best degree possible? We're not there yet. We're in the past, in the distant past, where we were living tribally in unity, those things were covered. But since we've kind of stepped away from have long stepped away from that, we have forgotten how to do these things. And so now we're stumbling around attempting we have all these laws, but they're often a far cry from justice. And so figuring out how to have a just society, in which those situations don't need to come up. Like if you chose a good partner and you did the whole, what does it mean to have a spiritual relationship, for example, like what you started with, then the guy isn't going to beat you, or you're not going to beat him because you made a good choice. We're not there yet. We're still progressing. Okay, we are, I think, good to go. We'll do our healing, do our little healing. So be comfortable and allow. Wait, stop. I'm not going to turn on the healing button until you push the button down there. Which button's the bell and the join? No, not join. Follow. I'm just kidding. You don't have to push them. We'd like it if you did. Get comfortable.
Do you mind summarizing for us, like asking what is the most important thing that we could walk away with from this discussion?
Unity.
Marriage? Unity.
Unity. True unity.
Which is what?
Which is not the same as a united front. True unity.
Which is what?
When your hearts agree. When your hearts you have consulted together and your hearts agree. And it's not just, okay, well, the louder of the two, or the louder, or if it's in a relationship, marriage relationship, or in a family, or in a community, or whatever, not just agreeing just to get by, but agreeing because you have truly consulted and come up with all the crazy possibilities of how we can solve this situation. And everybody feels good about what has been decided. Okay. All right.
Screen. Facebook screen. I got it.
They're showing like us imaging of floating on the waves of unity and love. So image that for yourself, of being held by the stream of community and love and consultation, and how that voyage, how beautiful that voyage is, rather than the one where we're trying to drive by our prejudices and our rigidness, but by allowing.